In this video, I'm gonna try 7 photography TikTok trends so you don't have to. This is how it's gonna go. We're gonna watch the TikTok video, we're gonna do the trend, then I'm gonna show you the results and I'm gonna give you my opinion as a professional photographer with an MFA in photography. Of course, I would love to see your comments about each trend. Okay, let's watch the first video. Okay, that looks very cute. Let's start doing this. The first thing we need to do is to draw the stars, of course. Then I'm gonna cut the stars and we need to find a point in my house that has direct lighting. If we're in a place where all our lighting is completely flat, we're really not gonna see the difference. So we really need to find this sweet spot where we get direct lighting so we can actually see the shapes of the star. We decided that the balcony was our best option during this time. I'm in quarantine right now, so we can't really go out, but I think this will do, at least to see the effect. After a lot of trying, because the trick in this is that you can actually see the shape of the star, so you need to move the paper around just a little bit till you find that sweet spot where you are like, okay, I really like how it looks. And these are the results we got. After going through this experience, my opinion is the following. I was holding the stars because I wanted to experience the situation if you wanted to try it alone with a tripod and nobody really helping you. What I think it's a little bit tricky is that because you kind of get tired of holding the paper, that affects a little bit what it's your facial expressions. So if you have somebody that can hold the paper, it will make things probably a little bit easier. But since I wanted to make the full-on experiment as a self-portrait, it definitely affects your final results in the way that you interact with the camera, because you're so focused on like how the lighting is gonna show up and go a little bit left or a little bit right that it can become a little bit distracted. In professional photography, you can definitely create this effect, and there are other tools that you can use to try to get a similar effect, maybe not with stars, but to modify the lighting so you can get a more dramatic effect. Maybe if you're in the studio, the effect will be a little bit more dramatic and maybe it's a little bit more appealing, I would think. It is definitely a super fun experience to experiment with something like this, plus it will help you a ton to understand lighting and how things fall into place. But I will think that this is maybe something you want to try once, but you don't want to do it all the time. This is very exciting. Let's try it out. I'm definitely gonna change to a new outfit and definitely show you the results. So what you need is your phone, some tape, and a toilet paper tube. Well, I mean, toilet paper, it is very trendy right now, so why not? The whole point is to create a circle with the light. After you set your whole thing on your phone, that looks very classy. What you need to do is to turn on your flash. So your flash is gonna act as your main lighting. So you're definitely gonna need something else to take the photo. So a friend can help you, or you can set up a tripod with a different camera or a different phone that you can ask somebody in your house. I'm sure there are many ways you can do this. If you try this trick in a place in your house during the day where you have plenty of lighting, the effect it's not gonna be as obvious, and this is basic lighting. So if you want a little bit of more dramatic effect, you're definitely gonna need a place in your house if you're doing this during the day that it's kind of dark. If you're doing this during the night, well, you don't need to have any problems. Another thing to have in mind is your background. If your background is white and plain, you're gonna see the effect even more. But of course, if you have different textures in your background, this can give you a completely different result. And if you have lighting behind your background, that could also give you a very different result. So these are things that you can just play around and be very creative. This is one of the things that I love about photography, that it's not really like, oh my god, no, or oh my god, yeah, but they're just ways to experiment. And sometimes when we're experimenting with these trends and these cool things, we can discover something different, something new that then we can apply to our regular photography. So after taking these shots, these are the results. My opinion is that it's a very creative way to make something that it could be, you will need a little bit more of equipment. It's definitely a very fun thing to try, and definitely great for quarantine when you're at home and you want to experiment with new ways to really showcase something that it might be just plain and boring, making it very interesting with light. My opinion is that there are ways to do this in a studio that are way more successful. So there's something that it's called the cone, and this is a modifier, and you use it to modify light, and it does the exact same circle. But this, of course, you need a flash, a strobe, and like you need equipment. If you want a really high quality lighting, this is definitely the way to go. Of course, the phone version, it's super fun, but you can really see the difference. Another very important thing about this trend is that because you're doing it with your phone, and lighting, it's the main ingredient to have a successful photo, your phone doesn't really have a lot of opening to make photos with really low lighting. But if you have a more powerful equipment where you can really play with the aperture and the speed in your camera, what is gonna happen is that you're gonna get a higher quality photo. Why do we want a higher quality photo? Because obviously this is gonna help us a ton in post-production. But again, as a really fun experiment, I think it's great. It's just, it gets a little bit too grainy because you need to shoot this in a very dark setting. So the phone, for this specific experiment, it's probably not the ideal thing. You can still get a pretty cool effect. If you're enjoying this video, you're taking value out of it, don't forget to like this video so I know you want more videos like this, and subscribe, be part of the family. You get new tips every week. Let's go for the next video. This is very fun. This hack is very simple. It's really much for your selfies, and you can adjust the settings that the camera brings. You definitely need an iPhone for this, and we're pretty lucky that we got one. So let's try it. As you can see, if you have natural lighting and you're playing around with these effects, it's a very notorious way how your skin looks and how really makes your eyes shine way more, and yeah, it definitely gives a quote-unquote studio effect. In my particular case, I am not a fan. And I'm gonna tell you why. The iPhone not only gives you that option, it does give you a couple other options that includes black and white and include more like this cone effect where the background is darker, and it has a couple other effects. My opinion on this specific area is that when we use these effects in our original photo, we're doomed for life with that photo like that, because we cannot really change effects that we did it with. Before, when we used to use film in cameras, you kind of needed to make the decision like, is this gonna be black and white, so I'm gonna use a black and white film, or if it's gonna be color, and those are previous decisions. I do believe that it's better to take the photo in the original format, how it looks, and then make everything in post-production. Because sometimes we're really into one kind of filter or one kind of effect, and then in 2 weeks after that, we are not really that much into that effect. And then if we have the original file, then we can do whatever we want with that file, instead of just applying these filters or things automatically. So it really depends on what you like, and it really depends about taste. I believe that it really takes away quality from the photo, and it really takes away the fact that you can play around a little bit more with your photo. But you know, if you want to try it, you're more than welcome. I personally think it's better to make all these effects after. I would love to know your opinion on this one. This one is very easy to try, so let me know in the comments, what do you think? And before we continue with this video, don't forget that you can subscribe and become part of the family. Hit the subscribe button. Let's go for the next video. Okay, we're gonna try this hack, but from the get-go, I'm not gonna do it exactly like that because I already know it's not necessary. You can use this with any pair of sunglasses that you have at home, but you don't actually need an old case and you don't need to break your glasses. What you really can do is just set your glasses in front of the lens and you're gonna get the exact same effect. You don't need to ruin anything. Plus, you're not really gonna be going around with an ugly case. That's what I think. Or maybe other people will, but I don't think it's needed. You just need to use the sunglasses you're wearing that day and put it in front of the lens, and then you're good. You can definitely play around. I play around here a little bit with the position of the lens and how much did I want it to cover the photo and how much filter did I want it to apply. Of course, with every kind of sunglasses is gonna be a little bit different because it really depends on the tones. My opinion. This effect is definitely something that it's not new at all, and there's a lot of camera filters that you can use. I remember using a couple filters when I used to shoot with film camera. I used to have a set of filters, especially to give a little bit more of contrast to my photos. Of course, this is not digital photography, so you will be doing all this stuff prior, even though you could do it in post-production, but it will be something cool to experiment with. So definitely this is not something completely new. This is something that we already have for many years. So this concept, it's definitely proven and it definitely works. I do think that this effect is something that you can do a couple times and this is fine, but it's not something that I will really do in all my photos. This is probably something that I will keep for post-production. Remember that when you have your raw file, then you can experiment with colors and make your sky purple if you want, and then one day you're like, I don't feel cool about purple, now we like, I don't know, soft pink, and then you can do it. So it's really cool to experiment, but again, I will prefer to have this effect in post-production. This video is sponsored by the I'm Not Photogenic and How to Fix It course. Here you're gonna find all the tools that you need to find your right angle and learn how to pose with your body. I'm gonna give you all the tools that you really need to discover what are the things that look amazing in front of the camera for you. I'm gonna leave you all the information in the description box. Now let's continue. Okay, so I'm gonna stop it because the first one, it's kind of the same concept as with the stars, so I don't really think it's worth exploring again. And as I told you, you can use almost anything that will give you a shape, so that we don't really need to try. But I thought the CD effect, it's great. It's funny how CDs are used nowadays. So I wanted to take this specific trend to explain you different ways and different effects that you can actually get from this trend. This is really a lot about bouncing light and creating and generating different effects with a CD. I definitely think it's something to explore, to try about, and something that it can be really cool. So the first thing that I'm gonna show you is that if we take the CD and we go in a dark spot and we can reflect the lighting towards you, you're gonna get a very shiny spot of lighting that if you play around with it and you do it pretty well, it can end up being very cool. Also, you can use this exact same technique with other things that will maybe generate different textures or colors and can make your photo even more attractive. A second way to see this is if you are in direct lighting and you're still bouncing it. And if you're moving your CD around, you're gonna start seeing some sort of a rainbow. So this can be really cool to generate some sort of effects. This is if the CD is closer to the model. Another way to use it is if the photographer is holding the CD a little bit closer to the phone. You can get a kind of burn kind of effect, and I'm not sure if I record this part, but you can also get some sort of reflection if you put the CD under your lens. So this can really give you a lot of ways to play around with what is reflection and what we're really doing, that is modifying lighting. This is gonna take a little bit more time than you probably think it's gonna take, and it's especially because it's a lot about precision and it's a lot about playing around. But I feel like this is a part of the creative of being a photographer that makes things very fun. For my opinion, I think this is a great way to explore, learn about lighting, and see how you can modify and bounce lighting in a very fun and simple way, I will say. Also, you can make this effect without all that hustle with an app. So maybe it's a little bit more precise, and again, it's an effect that you can take away because you have the raw file. And it's definitely fun. I suggest you to play around with it. Let me know if you tried it, if you liked it. But it's something that I will use maybe at the end of the party. Let's say like if you have a photo shoot and you have like your clean shots, your creative shot, you already did your pre-production, you're shooting, everything is cool, everything is flowing. And then at the end, to have this little experiment, I will add the CD to see what's up. But I still have a backup of my images that are not touched with this effect. Let's go for the next video. Okay, I love this trick because it's one of the oldest tricks in the book, and I know it's gonna be super beautiful and effective. So let's try it. So again, because we can really not leave home, we find a spot in the balcony to make this happen. One of the things was that we realized that we needed way more water than we actually thought we were gonna need for this specifically. And of course, I think it wouldn't be way better if we had a different kind of background, but since we really didn't have like an amazing background really, it was nice with lighting, I have to say. I think it was better to keep it simple, so that's exactly what we did. These are the results. This trick, it's really been used in photography for many years, and yeah, maybe we didn't purposely put water in it, but there are photographies through history that have used the reflection on the street because of a little spot that had some water, or they use some sort of reflection in a river. And this is one of the things that are like a super yes, because as soon as you have some sort of reflection or something that gives us a little bit of symmetry in our photos become definitely more appealing, especially when you're in a lake or something like that, when you're really playing around with the things that you have around and using the nature to make your beautiful photo. One little thing that I want to warn you is that you need to be a little bit careful with the lens or the equipment that you're going to use. If you're going to use your phone, a lot of the phones nowadays are waterproof, so maybe that's not going to be such a big deal, but it's definitely something to think about in case that you're using your regular camera or you have an older phone that may be a little splash, or making a video like the one that I did for TikTok, it can ruin a little bit your equipment, so just be careful with that. Another cool thing is, another important point that I want you to have in mind is that your phone needs to be upside down. The camera needs to be touching your floor so you can actually see the effect. One of the trickiest thing we encountered while we were making this challenge was that we couldn't really see my whole body in the reflection. So I went down a little bit and then you can see it way better. But I feel like if you can actually go outside and find a location when you have a little bit more space, this could be even more successful. I will say of all of this is one of my favorites, and this is something that you can do and experiment with all the time in your photos. You can find reflection not only in water, but you can find reflection with the mirror or maybe with a window. Anything that generates some sort of reflection makes your photo way more appealing. If you subscribe to your YouTube channel, you can do it. Okay, let's go for the next video. Okay, this hack, it's been done a couple times on TikTok and I think it's very beautiful in a way. Definitely it's not the typical hack where it really shows your face or anything, but I think it's something cool to experiment with. So let's try it. And here are the results. Real trick about this hack, it's really using a location where you don't really have a lot of lighting and putting it down as much as you can. The part where you put it down a little bit, it's really, you can still adjust that in post-production, but I think what makes it better is if you don't have as much lighting, and in this case in the bathroom. When you're shooting with no lighting at all, you don't really know where your hand is, so it can get a little bit tricky if you go up or down, but I think it looks more beautiful when you not necessarily it's you in the photo, but it's more about the effects and like the stars that are happening. So yeah, definitely try to have the less amount of lighting that you can have in your bathroom and try to experiment with this. It's really the flash reflection, and I'm not a fan about camera flash, but I think that this works pretty well. In my opinion, this is something that you can definitely want to try with your phone, and it's not a photo that maybe you are going to like keep forever, but it is definitely a fun effect to try, and I would love to see what you came up with. I think that maybe if you take it a little bit farther, you can maybe make shapes with the water. Maybe I didn't try it, but I think that could be cool. Or maybe mixing effects and having just a little bit of lighting in your face and then generating this and having some sort of contrast where you can see. I don't know, I think that there are a couple of things that you can do. I get very creative sometimes, and it's like, Bonnie, stay on the train, can you chill? But I think this is the fun part, that you can make things very, very creative. To end this video in a very high note, I want to give a shout out to Sasha. She tried one of my poses on Instagram and her result was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And you can share your results with me as well on Instagram. So I'm looking forward to it. Remember, you're beautiful and special. See you next week.